Asagao to Kase-san is simply sublime. In the first place, it's a remarkably sweet Yori story following the blossoming romance of Kase and Yamada as they explore their newfound relationship together, but there's even more to it than that. I think to some degree the fact it's Yori in itself has obscured some of the other great and worthwhile aspects to it. The piano-driven soundtrack does well to heighten the emotions, and the sound design effectively balances this with moments of pure silence for even greater effect. What particularly struck me about the OVA, though, is its visual presentation. It may not be the most immediate in its uniqueness, but there's so many moments here and there that contribute to it being a fantastic experience. To begin with, we have beautiful watercolor backgrounds setting the tone for this story to unfold. Whites fade in at the edges, the soft coloration a gentle touch beckoning us into the world it presents, with the little details making this world all the more worth getting invested in. Kase and Yamada's rooms were the first thing to grab my attention, each an effective realization of their characters. What you can say with what someone's room looks like is often underutilized, but here we see a reflection of their individual interests and personality types. Yamada's room is a bit askew, reflective of her more emotional, scatterbrained self, and you can also see her more girly side as well. Makeup left out on the table, pinks aplenty, and a variety of animal-themed objects. Her deeper interest in botany is presented as well, with plants and books lining the walls. Kase, a more tomboyish figure, shows less interest in that regard, with a fairly simplistic approach to her room. There's not much knickknacks lying about, just exercise gear, clothes hanging on a clothing rack not even stowed in a closet, and some boxes lying in the corner. Almost out of sight are various other items, trophies stored on a shelf above. You can definitely see her more at ease attitude in the lax presentation of her room. Visually, there's also a really obvious but effective contrast between the two rooms, especially when it's introduced in the beginning. Yamada's room is brightly lit, whereas Kase's is a bit darker, casting shadows with the light source being a lamp at her desk. Yamada's walls and bed are pink, Kase's blue. Even the beige of Yamada's wooden floor is contrasted with a darker brown in Kase's room. All this creates a clearly defined contrast between the two. They really feel like their own individual people with their own lives. They both love each other, yes, and their desire to stay together is what serves as the emotional motivation for the climax of the story. But they also have their own unique aspirations and motivations outside of simply loving one another, which makes them feel much more believable and makes their romance all the more compelling, because their existence is more than just love alone. This is highlighted and fleshed out by their individual rooms, and the direction highlights this aspect to make it especially apparent. We see each of their rooms from every conceivable perspective, and the different ways they engage with the room is another factor. I particularly like this shot that frames Kase between the gap in clothes on her clothing rack. It's a neat way to center our attention on her without repeating the same few obvious shots again and again. With Yamada, not only does it utilize a variety of angles, but her expressive character is really well visualized in how much she moves about, even within the context of staying on her bed alone. She goes from sitting to standing to lying down, and every movement is as exaggerated as the last. This cut of her giggling to herself as she kicks at air in her bed is particularly fantastic. It does an impressive job of keeping the sense of impact, weight, and drag, which makes the expression of her emotions feel particularly real and unmatchably compelling. We see other neat ways of framing shots throughout the OVA, whether it being an open door as we see them meet from opposite sides at school, a literal reflection of when Yamada feels trapped by viewing her through a chain-link fence, or in how it obscures our vision during a particularly emotional kiss. Sometimes not seeing something is even more powerful than seeing it, and Asagao to Kase-san is keenly aware of that fact, often purposely hiding or delaying the visibility of one side of the duo's emotional reaction to create a sense of tension and suspense, or to tap into the power of the viewer's imagination. This scene here is probably my favorite in the whole OVA. I just absolutely love it on every level. Yamada is at this point in the story a bit emotionally distraught, and at that point in time is washing her hands in the sink, while we have the camera positioned behind her, her face reflected in the mirror. We see Kase poke around the corner in the mirror's reflection, and she sneaks up to the unsuspecting Yamada, playfully grabbing a bite of the lunch Yamada had left laying out, which Yamada had made specifically to share with Kase, but was depressed because at every turn she had missed her opportunity to ask. In the next cut, Yamada is positioned on the right, while the mirror shows Kase's expressions on the left. This is an inversion of what we would normally expect when presenting a standard back and forth between two characters, and what it does is really effectively highlight the already brilliantly illustrated emotional reactions, as it sort of forces you to jump back and forth with a more attentive eye. And of course there's this standout scene where Yamada is overcome with self-doubt, drowning in a sea of insurity, and this is reflected with her being badgered by a mirage of her friend while floating in an abstract landscape, spacey and ocean-like, emphasizing her sense of aloneness. This allows for some really expressive animation that can be even more inventive due to not having to follow the standard laws of physics, and opening the visuals up to even more potential angles, the possible points of view now infinite. The way the visuals consistently mix things up keeps the experience engaging the whole way through, while presenting some especially memorable moments. Like I said, Asagao to Kase-san is real sweet. It's got a nice dramatic tension and resolution, all packaged well within this hour-long OVA for maximum effect. Even better, its visuals help give the work a sense of vision and serve to enhance the depth and effect of its narrative and its characters, while it brings you into this warm and comfy atmosphere. Light shining, flowers blooming, and love booming. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. If you really enjoyed the video, throw me a buck on Patreon at patreon.com/corereviews. You can also find more of my ramblings on Twitter at corereviews and on my second channel, Core's Contemplations. Also, I want to know what you guys want, so let me know what shows, movies, OVAs, what have you'd be curious to hear my take on. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next one.